within 1/16 it looks like. That's about where I want that. And it looks like we got our ball mount directly over our axle, which is where I wanted it. I wanted it far enough back so that I wouldn't hit my corners swinging with trailers, but far enough forward that it put the weight over the axle. An inch forward or 2 inches forward would have been ideal, but I was mostly concerned with contact on the corners while turning. So that's the area I settled on. Well, I figured out where the sparks were coming from. I pinched these wires. So, not a huge deal. I can fix that. Also got to drill a hole for my filler neck. Unfortunately, I can't get my mag drill in here, so I got to do it the old-fashioned way. So I just noticed this. So there's a gap here, which I'm expecting because it's sitting on top of these rivets. But check it out. All the heat that we put into this caused it to lift a good 3/16 of an inch. So before I drill those holes, I'm going to clamp this down to bring it down on both sides. And then those bolts can go in. We got our holes drilled, got our brackets welded on. I had to remove the tires to get these two holes in. Welded the top here as well, across there. I had to build a box around my gooseneck ball to support the end of the wood. I ordered some wood today. They said like 2 weeks. But it was only 190 bucks for the whole bed for hardwood, so not that bad. I welded on my headboard support. This is going to be the plate of the bottom of the headboard. And I went ahead and got a piece of plywood set up to measure my angles and clamp my steel to, so I have good angles and symmetrical side to side. I bobbed the frame. I went and picked up a piece of steel for a receiver hitch. So right now we're gonna focus on framing out the headboard. And I also went down to a local welding shop that I do some business with, and I had them bend me up some, I call these buttresses, big gussets to hold the headboard. So these will go on here like such to support the headboard. I think I want to have these guys do a very similar thing an L, and then out and down, so that it protects the back of the cab, leaves the window open. So I want to make the headboard bolt-on removable because I'm trying to get this galvanized, and they only have certain size tanks. Strangely, you can only go 7 foot by 5.5 feet, so this will fit in there at an angle and they can dip it, but they can't dip it with the headboard. So I still got to get a quote on that. It might be way too expensive, but if it does, it's got a 20-year warranty against rust, and I could use this body on the next 3 ambulance chassis. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Looks like we're getting some snow coming the next week, so I might just bolt this on so that I can get salting, and if I have some break in the weather, I'm gonna send it out for galvanizing and sandblasting. So I will update when that time comes. As of right now, we're gonna go ahead and get this part here fabbed up, set it up, clamp it in place. I drew some lines on here. I used my angle finder to figure out what angle I wanted this to be at. I literally just held it up and went, 10 degrees looks good. And then after I cut it, I held it up there and it did. So it's only gonna be about a couple inches above the roof. I hate it when you see these headache racks that are sticking 1.5 feet above the roof. They look goofy. So I am going for function, but I'm also going a little bit for aesthetics. So these are my, I'm gonna call these flying buttresses that I had bent up at a local shop, and it looks good, but I didn't consider this. I'm gonna lean this in to match, and when you do that, watch what happens here. Big gap, no gap, big gap, no gap. So I did some work in SketchUp and figured that was about 1 inch different, and it looks about right. I also got a bevel this side here, so I'll hit this with the plasma, take it, I'll just draw a straight line from here 1 inch to a point, burn that off with the plasma, and I'll make the other side match, and that's going to be close enough. We got quite a gap up here, but I do want it to be perpendicular to the bed. On my pickup, I actually lean the top forward. So I have to do something about a fuel filler neck, and they want like $175 for a generic fuel filler neck, and they're weeks out. So I am going to take the one that came on this truck and modify it to work the way I need to. So I basically just need to have a straight piece as opposed to one with this big bend in it. So I'm going to cut this hose off and just move the nipple up. And then on this, I'm going to cut this and move this nipple up to here. So hopefully that works. I'm gonna give this some more time to cure before I force that on. I also pulled the wiring out. This group here is the trailer light group, and this is the truck light group. A couple wires, I don't know what they do, but we've identified turn signals, stop lights, reverse lights, and running lights. So we have 12-volt power constant for the trailer running. I'm assuming blue is brake And this one I don't know. Purple with red, I don't know. So I've identified all these, and I've identified all but one of these truck side. So some upfit wires, I'm sure, for some communication. So I bought a couple of these junction boxes. I'm going to do a junction box for the truck, and then another junction box I'm going to do up here for the trailer, just to keep them separate the way they are, because they're fused separately in the truck. So I'm going to get to wiring this up. Basically just going to crimp on a bunch of terminals, and I'll put the wires on there so I know the color coding. I'm going to use typical trailer color coding for the truck and trailer, but obviously I got to feed the box with the wire colors that come with it. So I'm not going to bore you with that. I'll just show you what it looks like when it's done. And just like that, trailer box, truck box. 2 wires that I got no clue what to do, but sealed the ends of them, tucked them in here in case I ever need them. No idea what they're for. Wrapping wire loom, zip tie on the inside to hold them. Now it's time to make a light harness. So I got my clamp set up, my soldering iron, solder, and here we go. So I'll show you how I do one splice, and then after that you can figure it out. I'm not going to show you 200 splices. So these come from the factory tinned. I'm going to cut that off because it's useless to me. Trim it back. Pretty good distance. We're going to be splicing this one into it. So same thing. Since we're going to be tying into a 3rd wire, I'm going to trim it back a little more. And I bought a trailer wiring kit mostly because it's the least expensive way to get wire. So, and I can use these ends here for my headache rack, so I can unplug and plug in the truck side headache rack. And I'll use this and chop this up for the wire I need. So then what I do is I take my 2 wires that I'm splicing and I fray them. I want messy. Do the same thing to this wire. And then I'll pre-twist this wire, especially if the harness is already started. First wire is not so important. And then I put them together, pinch, and twist. Get a nice, and then I put them in my alligator clips to hold them. Clean it up a little bit, and then solder. So those two are wired together now. Got white for ground, black is running, so brown is running on a trailer, so we're gonna go with that. And we're doing left turn signal, so yellow goes into the signal wire. So now both those lights will work off the same circuit. Now we're gonna tie in another wire to this to do the marker light on the side. All right, so I figured out where I want to splice in. So this is a solid wire. This is the wire I'm splicing in. So what I do is, I know this is a 14 gauge, so we go to the 14. We strip. We go down the wire an inch or so. Strip it again. Careful not to break the wire. I mean, you obviously could cut the wire and do the same as before. Okay. Broke a few wires. Take a utility knife. Very carefully remove the casing. And you'll nick a wire or two if it's, this is really fine wire. Okay. And I separate the wires like such. So then I strip back the wire that's teeing in. Then I make sure I'm going downstream with the wire. I go through. And twist it up. And I solder that. And then heat shrink it. So the next thing I do is I put split wire loom on each one of the pigtails. Put some tape around the wires just to hold them. And then eventually this will lead its way back to the junction box. I'm going to put 1/2 inch loom where the wires are thicker. I had my local fabrication shop bend me up a piece for my headboard. It's over there. So we're gonna get that cut and tacked in place, finish welding. I can take the headboard off at that point and finish weld it. And then it's gotta go to the sandblaster. So the task today is get this headboard off of here, but I gotta tack that in first so I don't lose my spacing. So I'm gonna cut that, tack it in, and I'm gonna take it off and weld it up. looks like the angles are good. Just gotta get it up into place. Okay, so there's the mock-up. When you're working by yourself, you gotta get creative. So some clamps and some ratchet straps got her into place. Looks like I need to do a little bit of grinding to get some of this powder coat or paint off of here. And then I'm gonna put some nice heavy tack welds on it. And then I'm gonna unbolt this and set it down on my sawhorses so I can weld everything on the horizontal. Be a nice strong welds all the way around. I'm a little bit worried about heat distortion with these mounts, but if I need to, I'll blow these holes out a little bit to help it bolt into place. Well, it's 4 inches off the bottom on both sides. The top is a little skinnier over there, but I think you're gonna notice this between the wood more than you will a 22-inch gap. So I'm gonna go ahead and burn some tacks in right there. And then, like I said, we'll take it off and finish burning it in. didn't bother welding the inside. I think it's just an excessive amount of welding for what it is. So now we're gonna put a couple brackets on here for lights and one in the middle for a strobe light. And then after that, I think I'm gonna trim these legs off so they're not so long and get it ready for sandblast. I don't know if I should put a couple uprights in here just for, really just for looks. I'll think about it. So I'm making mounts for my strobe lights, and my hole saw wouldn't quite cut through that material, so I used the hole saw to make a template, and then I plasma cut it. And I mean, I'm not as good with the plasma cutter as the circular saw is, so now we got to clean this up and try to make it look kind of round. So I'm gonna do one of them things I saw on TikTok. So now my dilemma is, where do I mount it? Do I just pop it on top of there? Like a mount out here for it? This is probably the easiest. Might not be the best looking. Out here would look better. More fabrication. I could just weld that on if I did that, and then I'd have to bore this hole out a little bigger for the galvanizing.
Yeah, ready for the golden line? Oh, yeah. Here we go, here we go.
So side to side level I'm really concerned about. Front to back not so much. Just because when you're behind the truck you'll see it. So with my little level on here, showing side to side perfect, and front to back is about a quarter out. So I'm going to put a nice hot tack on the front side, and hopefully the heat will pull it up level, and then when I tack the back it'll be level all the way around. So these strobe lights were on clearance and they were advertised as permanent mount or magnetic mount. But the magnet sticks down a 1/4 inch or so past the mounting flange here. And my wire is actually going to go straight down the tube. So I want to get this magnet out of here. It looks like it's just double stick tape in there. But I tried to cut it with a wire. That didn't work. I'm gonna try some floss next, and if that doesn't work, I'm just gonna run a Dremel around the inside of this flange here. But that'll kind of make the circuit board a little more vulnerable to moisture. So I don't really want to do that either. So I'm gonna try to get the magnet off the plastic before anything too extreme. I really hate to mount that and have it be sticking up a 1/4 inch. I mean, if there was a gasket or something I could throw in there, it'd be fine. So, see, this is on the clearance rack at Napa, so it might not have had all the parts to it. So there's an O-ring on the top side. I just want to get this on there so I can get my holes drilled, because it's going to get sandblasted tomorrow, and it's going to the galvanizer on Tuesday, which is 2 days from now. So I'm trying to get all my mounting holes drilled so that there's no you know, no drilling through freshly galvanized steel, because that would defeat the purpose of galvanizing it. So I'll see if I can figure this out. So this wire originally is supposed to come out through this little slot here. Well, I don't really care for that. So there's enough room here without the magnet to just bend this wire over and go right down through the hole. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing centered and get my holes marked and drilled on both sides. And then the headache rack is done. I'll bring the body in, get that ready for the sandblaster next. Hit the body and the headboard off the van, taking it up to the sandblaster this morning. Just picked it up at the sandblaster. This guy did a real nice job. Very good attention to detail. Thorough, gets every little crevice. Looks great. Unfortunately, when I was moving it, I took it off my truck and I dropped it, and it had bent. It ripped out a little bit of the weld right here. So I got my porta power on there, and I'm going to attempt to straighten it out. Throw some heat on here where it's bent, give it a little bit of relief, redo my welds here, and maybe push down here a little bit, and I should be good to go. couple spots here that I couldn't get earlier because it was real close to the cab and I didn't want to burn the fiberglass up on the cab. The last thing I want to do, I purchased these. I could have made these, but I was running out of time because I got to get to the galvanizer tomorrow. They're like 10 bucks a piece, but they're done. So what I want to do is I'm going to weld these inside the frame because I'm 101 inches wide. So I'm going to weld them inside here, 3 down each side, and I'll just notch my wood around it so I can drop chains and stuff down through them and use them for tie downs. I can hook the edge with ratchet straps, but I wanted someplace that wouldn't slide back and forth. So I picked up 6 of these. I'm gonna put these on, and then I'm gonna load this up and take it to the galvanizer tomorrow morning. I gotta be down there at 6 o'clock. It's a 2-hour drive, not a big deal. But I kind of doubt they're gonna let me record what they do. Basically, there's a giant vat of molten zinc. They dip this in several chemicals to strip any oils, even from your hands. Apparently, it'll even strip rust, but it won't strip paints and powder coats, which is why I had to sandblast this. If I had all just rusty metal, they could have done it, but it would have taken a day as opposed to a few hours. So they're gonna double dip this, get me zinc coated, galvanized, and this thing will probably outlast the next 2 chassis that I buy. And that was the goal, was I'm gonna pick up another one of those when that one rots out. So I'm gonna weld those 6 pockets on, get this thing loaded up, and next time you see it, it's gonna be shiny galvanized, hopefully. Well, I'm down here at the galvanizing plant. I don't think they're gonna let me in to record anything, but I scaled in. These guys are really busy. Pretty impressive how much material they're moving in and out of here. And they got these really funny looking forklifts. But it's pretty cool to see raw steel going in one end and this nice shiny rust-proof metal coming out. So if I can get in there and they'll let me, I'll record it, but I'm not very hopeful.